my message to great British businesses of all sizes is that we want the UK to be the best place in the world to start and grow a defence business. That's why we set a target to spend an extra £2.5 billion with SMEs by 2028. That's an uplift of 50%. This is a Labour government delivering for defence and delivering for Britain.
Yes. Now, Mr. Speaker, last June, from that dispatch box, the Secretary of State promised to deliver the Defence Investment Plan by the autumn. He failed to do so. At our previous orals in December, he promised to work flat out to deliver the DIP by the end of the year. He failed to do so. With continuous dither and delay, is it no surprise that reports last month indicated the worst sentiment among UK defence SMEs for 20 years? The DIP is well overdue. Can he confirm that it will finally be published this month?
We're working flat out to complete the DIP. And he, above all, having been responsible for defence procurement under the last government, will appreciate just how overcommitted his own programme is, will appreciate the truth of his former boss when he said under 14 years the Conservatives have underfunded and hollowed out our armed forces. And we will deal with that overcommitment, we'll deal with the underfunding, and we'll deal with the fact that his plans were unsuited to many of the threats that we face.
James McCleary, Liberal Democrats. Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. We all know that we must increase defence spending urgently, but we are not hearing many ways to get that moving right away without harming British security in other ways, slashing international development aid or investment in renewable energy, for instance, just robbing Peter to pay Paul. The Chief of Defence Staff has warned that there is a £28 billion funding shortfall. So I want to offer the Secretary of State a practical, costed way to close much of that gap. Defence bonds. This would raise £20 billion over the next 2 years and get investment straight away into capability and the industrial base, including the SMEs we rely on. Will the Secretary of State now give this proposal serious consideration as part of a clear, funded plan to plug the funding gap and get defence investment moving?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I remember when his predecessor stood in this House after the election arguing, like the honourable gentleman opposite did, for this country investing 2.5% of GDP by 2030. The honourable gentleman called for that 13 times before the Prime Minister a year ago said we would do it 3 years earlier than he or the other party. We will look at any potential way of raising the level of investment going into defence. But I just say to the honourable gentleman, he could start by recognising that this is a government that has made a commitment and is making a record investment in defence, the largest increase since the end of the Cold War. And I note that in passing, he seems to be against the way that we will fund this and reach 2.5 and 2.6 next year. 3 weeks ago, I was in Kyiv. I saw for myself the savagery of Putin's brutal assault on the Ukrainian people, and I saw also their extraordinary defiance. Next week, I will co-chair the 50-nation-strong Ukraine contact group in NATO, and the UK is providing more military support now than ever before, and we will continue to stand united in this House, will continue to stand united in this country, and we will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes.
Toby Perkins.
Well, the Defence Secretary is absolutely right to spell out the strength of our commitment. But there is increasing concern about the extent to which China are propping up both the economic and military capabilities of Mr Putin and his barbaric regime. So can the Secretary of State tell me what his latest assessment is of China's contribution to Putin's war machine and what steps we're taking to ensure the international community remains united?
My honourable friend is right to raise this, Mr Speaker, and as a nation, as a government, the UK will not hesitate to act against those that are supplying and funding Putin's war economy. We've sanctioned a range of organisations that operate in third countries over economic and military support for Russia, including 50 Chinese companies. So we'll continue to work across other nations, with other nations, and to bolster the support for Ukraine and the principles of the UN Charter. But my honourable friend is right, and in this new era of Russian threat, we must ensure that our Royal Navy has the innovation it needs to detect, to track and to deter threats beneath the waves. And so today we've announced a new £40 million contract with a British-based SME to buy new sonar buoys, exactly to be deployed and used beneath the waves to track Putin's subs.
Right, Rishi Sunak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our Ukrainian friends don't just want to physically rebuild after this devastating war, but recover with a modernised, reformed economy that can attract investment and support their entrepreneurial population. Now, this is something Britain can help with, given our strengths in defence, technology, and indeed as a global financial centre. So could I ask the government to fully lean into these efforts alongside our allies, the IMF, the World Bank, and the private sector, because an economically strong Ukraine is not just good for Ukraine's future security, but ours as well.
The honourable gentleman is entirely right. A strong Ukraine is the key to a long-term secure Europe. He is also right that British defence, British innovation and British financial muscle can help Ukraine in the medium term. I think he'd also recognise that we can contribute to Ukraine in a unique way, having been, since the start of Putin's brutal invasion, the country that has been Ukraine's closest and most reliable ally under both governments.
Graham Belden.
Mr. Speaker, as we approach the 4th anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine this month, with reports that Russian troops have killed 12 people and injured 17 others after launching a drone strike on civilians just yesterday, the brutality of Putin's war shows no sign of abating. So can the Secretary of State confirm that the UK will not follow any US lead that undermines Ukraine's sovereignty or territorial integrity? And will he commit to maintaining Britain's military support at current levels or above, ensuring that decisions about Ukraine's future remain with Kyiv, not with Washington or Moscow?
Mr. Speaker, Ukraine's sovereignty, its territorial integrity is at the heart of our determination to stand with Ukraine. We are determined to step up our support for Ukraine, and this House will recognise the brutal attack on those mine workers going to work in order to mine the coal to keep their own Ukrainian citizens warm in this unprecedented cold period in Ukraine. Mr. Speaker, as the Strategic Defence Review set out, the High North is becoming more important to the UK and to our NATO allies as it becomes more accessible through climate change. We have Royal Navy deployments in the High North, we have Royal Marines cold weather training in Norway, we have Ranger exercises in Sweden and in Finland. We will continue to step up on Arctic security alongside our NATO and alongside our GEF allies.
Alistair Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your words about the late Lord Wallace of Tankerness. Jim Wallace was not just my predecessor in this House, but he was a friend and, in fact, my London flatmate for many years. I'm sure that his family and all those who mourn his passing, especially in the Northern Isles, will appreciate your acknowledgement of his contribution. Through the years of the Cold War, the RAF's radar station at Saxiford in Unst was the front line of our nation's defences to the north. That was drawn down 20 years ago and is now home to the Shetland spaceport. We've seen the recent activities of the Russian tanker Yanta, the interception of the Bella 1, and with space being identified as a priority in the Strategic Defence Review, will the Government now be reassessing the significance of Shetland and its waters as we look to the developing situation in the far north?
Mr. Speaker, we deeply value that the role of Shetland and Scotland in general plays to reinforce the security of the United Kingdom. The fact that there are 9,500 full-time troops in Scotland, the fact there are around 3,000 civilian defence personnel based in Scotland, and the fact that as a government in the last year we put over £2 billion into the Scottish economy to support defence, and the role that Scotland plays in general, part of keeping this country safer, but also defence driving economic growth throughout the UK.
Speaker, along with the Right Honourable Member for Orkney and Shetland, my constituency has an obvious interest in the High North and the defence of the western approaches, and I welcome this £40 million investment in anti-submarine sonar buoys and Operation Bastion to defend sub-sea cables across the Atlantic. But can the Minister give us a similar assurance about the integrity of cables and between cables and communications between our islands across the Pentland Firth, the Minch, the Irish Sea and even the Isle of Wight?
Well, my honourable friend points quite rightly to a growing level of Russian activity in particular that monitors and potentially threatens our critical undersea infrastructure. He will see the way that we have demonstrated that we see, we understand, and we track those Russian threats, that we're working particularly through GEF allies together to deal with those threats, and we will step up that further in the months ahead.
Calm.
Can I ask the Minister and the Secretary of State to consider diverting defence spending away from programmes that do not truly protect the British people? Our nuclear deterrent now consumes nearly a third of the defence budget through Trident, a system that cannot be launched without US approval. In pursuing nuclear deterrence and mutually assured destruction, we have drained funding from conventional forces and neglected diplomacy and development that actually prevents conflicts. So does he believe that prioritising nuclear defence over reducing tensions, ending conflicts and promoting peace genuinely delivers security for our people? And if so, can you explain why?
Can I thank him for his question? I recognise it comes from a different point of view than I think many people in this House and in the wider public as well. Our nuclear deterrent is operationally independent. The only person that can authorise the firing of that is the Prime Minister. It is a part of our security apparatus that keeps us safe every single day and has done for decades. As a government, we're continuing to invest in our nuclear deterrent, as we're investing in jobs and skills right across the country that keep us safe every single day. Our relationship with the United States is a key part of that, but we'll also continue to invest with our relationship with our other allies, especially around Europe as well.
Dr. Peter Prinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Bury St Edmunds, we have many US servicemen living off base from Lakenheath. They are a huge asset and greatly welcome. Would the Minister agree that the US remains our most essential ally and join me in my gratitude for the service of these brave US servicemen and women, so important for our security?
Can I thank my friend for his question? There are thousands of US personnel stationed in Britain. Their presence here helps keep us safe, as well as protecting American interests as well. We will continue to work closely with our US allies. It is important to do so, and we'll continue to invest in deepening that security partnership with the personnel based here in the United Kingdom to keep us safe in these more dangerous times.
Mr. Speaker, the ongoing threat to our nation's security from grey zone activity illustrates the importance of international associations and alliances such as NATO. Does my right honourable friend therefore share my concern at what the leader of the Green Party said yesterday, when in the same sentence he said he would leave and reform NATO? And doesn't it just show how unserious he really is?
We live in incredibly uncertain and difficult times, and it is because of that that the clarity and the strength of our commitment to NATO matters. Labour is the party of NATO. We helped found it, we'll continue to support it, and we'll support NATO allies because the strength of NATO is UK's strength as well, and we're going to continue to have a NATO-first approach.